Meeting is open. If you guys want to come closer, you know, you're happy there, okay. Heat's better there.
You can see I just decided to put the minutes right into the agenda, which is not something I've ever done before, but, you know, the status of the last meeting, I don't know what it was, whether it was official or not, so those are just some notes. If you have any, not even sure if it's correct to approve them, but
Well, we actually had 3 people.
we had 3 people, but she's still not official.
I'm not official.
Oh, you haven't done it?
No,
Swear back in
No.
yet.
So,
I haven't
you know,
done
we've got
any of that
this crazy
stuff
thing
yet.
going. Hey, I could say it's good to see you, thank you. That's good.
Are you all 3 official members?
I have been, but,
And you got sworn
I
in?
got sworn back in. Yeah.
And you're an official member from what we were told, so you have a quorum.
yeah, we have a quorum, so we can go forward, yeah. It's been a hectic couple of weeks, so if there's anything critical as to last week, I don't have the benefit of being able to find this ITE on my primitive system. No cables whatsoever, so, which is
no.
probably a good thing.
I don't have any reception at all.
So,
No, sir.
none of us get to review it,
Yeah,
unless you do.
no,
You just don't
I
bother.
won't. I
Oh,
refuse to
okay.
pay for TV.
All right.
I'll suffer with what I get, and I watch a lot of PBS, so, yeah. Because that's what I get. That's what comes in on my antenna.
I can remember some good comments, must have been 1965 by Dana. Dana Winchell many years ago about, you know, not all change is good, as you say.
Yeah, not all change is necessary either.
So, I guess that is a vein that's inactive. So, you can just walk through it, I guess.
Should I read it out loud?
Sure, just chairman's report, just if you have one.
Oh. No, I haven't communicated with anybody other than come up here and get sworn in.
No, other than Jennifer's telling me status, I haven't had any other communications with it,
No.
internal people.
Do you have any idea what kind of money, if any, we have?
No. I didn't call then ask the treasurer,
Okay.
so.
I stuck down that under old business is rather cryptic, but we haven't been posting agendas. You raised the question, you don't know where to post them anymore. They used to go out in a little bulletin. Do you have a process by which you want the agendas put out?
About the only place we have now is in the hallway there, because the
Yeah.
storage being rebuilt for all part.
I don't really know, it's an advisory committee. I know planning boards have a real official need to put them out there. You know, I don't know. You know, state law per se, you know.
I'll find out for you.
Okay, and normally it's a 7 days kind of a thing? Okay. So I guess there's 2 parts to that, where do we post them, which you said there, and you want to do that, or,
Okay, sure, I used to just give them to
because
Jennifer, and she used to stick them on.
there's 2 parts to that agenda. Later on, I had thrown it in there as another issue, because,
Usually they post them in more than
Yeah.
one place in town. They used to post them up at the dump, and they posted them out front, and then they also posted them inside. So there were,
Good.
they posted them in at least those 3 places. I don't know if there was any place else that they posted.
Well,
Well,
she used to put
Thanks.
it on website or whatever.
Right.
Well, usually there's nothing critical going forward, so it's pretty much, the agenda has a pretty even format, but I can see that you get it. And like I said at the end of the meetings, I really would like to stick to the idea that we should discuss what the agenda is for the following month.
Right.
If at all possible, then it would make it a little easier to make sure that we fit that requirement. If it is.
Yeah.
All right. The other thing I stuck down there, we had dropped the town pound up a couple of times. You want a copy of this, Bill? Just to follow along? No sense being totally in the dark?
Yeah, because it doesn't look like Lois is gonna show up.
Lois won't be here, actually. Lois called me, she won't be here.
Okay. Well, since we took the pound on as an issue 3 or 4 years ago and had it, dug the dirt out, I certainly wouldn't mind getting together and pulling the few bushes that are in there, you know, if that's amenable, you know, because it really needs it. It's a nice little thing, and it would be nice if it was a nice even course of grass in there. The second question, if it did need to be, when you pull it up, rather than let some invasives get in there, it'd be nice to throw a little bit of conservation mix or seed mix in there. So, you know, just, it's not a big task, but it would be a nice little project to do. And again, I want to thank you for getting the signs up, because, you know, it's nice to have it noted. You've been by that pound since they put the little sign up and stopped?
Yeah, what happened to the old sign?
What happened to the old sign?
The what?
The old sign, they just took it
The old
down?
town pond sign.
Well, no, why?
They just threw it away, or what?
Yeah, why?
I just wondered. Conservation Committee, we're supposed to conserve these things.
I haven't seen anybody from the Conservation Committee down there cleaning or mowing or...
No, we haven't done much of it. We did prune some, me and Bill
They
clipped a
take those
few.
things away from us and they give them to you because you're on the Historical Society, Mr. Neal. I don't think you want to walk down that path, not while I'm here.
Where's that? Does it walk down where?
Well,
We're
she-
not a historical committee, we're a conservation committee.
Yeah, I know, I'm just,
The schoolhouse was pulled away from us and given to the Historical Society. And then they took credit for all the work that we did
Well-
to get it on the historical registry. That's what happened. And all the power to them. I promised Wesley I'd be good. I have to shut my mouth now.
No, you know, it's a shame not to go in and clean it up a little, you know. And you know, if somebody was to mow it, it's pretty hard to mow it with the bushes in there at this point, but I think it would clean up.
Yeah, but I mean, you're trying to, you know, keep it mowed out front so that it looks...
No, I'm not volunteering to do that, I'm just volunteering to get the bushes out and to do it, and, because I don't know where the mowing is, I mean, that's a whole nother question. You know, I realize it's a town property and a town asset, and it's not really our choice, you know, but it would be nice to, since we had it cleaned out, it would be nice to leave it in the status that it was in 2 or 3 years ago. You know, could go in, just go back and clean the bushes out, and I don't know if, you know, the mowing is another question. I had a question on it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. I know it sounds cryptic, but who's who's informing you now as to who's recently died that's a vet? Does that come from the selectman's office, or?
Nobody tells me. I hunt it down.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what that process is. I know it's,
I scan the obituaries. I talk to people in town that I know. you know,
So that you just do it.
people
yeah,
inform me,
yeah.
they call me, you know, and then I look for their obituary and I scan the obituary of people that die in town.
And then you take the flag
And-
if you
and
miss somebody.
Right, people call me if I miss somebody.
Yeah.
I missed that one person down at Maple Grove, and I went right down, said, "I'm so sorry," and I went right down and put it on there.
Well,
So, that's what I do.
you know, because I'm remiss in not getting the names of the, you mentioned them, but I'm not sure I got
A
them.
lot of the people are selling their lots
Uh-huh.
back to the cemetery, and they're going to the veteran cemetery. Because they can have, they can get 2 graves, one for themselves, one for their wife. I don't know if they have to be cremated or not, but a lot of them are going down there, and they won't be under my jurisdiction anyways. A lot of people have lots in Milton Mills Cemetery, and I don't have to worry about covering those people. So a lot of it depends on where they're being buried, too. There's a lot of vets that have ties with Sanford. They live in Acton, they have ties with Sanford, they're buried there. Well, like Thomas Winchell. I mean, when he died, he's buried out in, I want to say Kentucky, but it's not Kentucky. I don't think it's Kentucky, but
Well,
it
it's
could be
it's nice to
Kentucky.
know that.
Yeah,
but
and he was a Vietnam vet,
Yeah.
you know, and
But-
he died very young, actually.
But my concern is, you know, we have to try to keep that record, and I don't know how you get it, that's all,
Yeah.
you know.
That's how I do it.
Didn't they used to put it in the town report, who died?
Huh? They don't do that anymore.
Right.
It's some kind of a invasion of
Yeah, but
privacy.
If it's a resident of
Can you
Acton,
imagine?
but the law is that any veteran that dies and is buried in Acton gets a flag. And it's just an open-ended question as to who informs us if we put the flags on, or who informs you as a select people, because it's your responsibility to the death of these veterans that are buried in Acton.
As active cemeteries, there's the 2, Acton Corner and Sandburn. Maple Grove is an active cemetery. Small family cemeteries that still have family living are considered active cemeteries.
Oh, yeah.
So you have, like Pat Doyle, he'll be buried in his cemetery right there.
Sure.
Beside his house, because that's his cemetery, that's his family plot. And I'm assuming that's where he's gonna be buried.
Yeah.
You know, why
I mean,
go?
I don't know the ramifications of the state law that, you know, it's state mandate, but, you know, the law doesn't specify how that information comes forward to the people that do it. It says the select people are responsible for do that, but it doesn't, I don't think there's anything in the law that says how that information is getting.
Jennifer would have the information, was when it happens. You know, she'd have to be something.
Yeah, a death record is recorded in the town.
Right.
Okay, so
At that point,
if it's a vet,
Yeah.
that's a piece of that, I would assume.
She'd be the first contact, you know, from where the record would come from.
There was nothing on my father's death certificate that indicated he was a vet.
Okay, yeah, so.
Nothing
so,
on his death
Again,
certificate that
it's catch as catch can, the
At
best
least
you
I
can.
can't remember it.
I mean,
I'll look at his
yeah,
death
so,
certificate,
I mean,
because I
it's-
have it.
I'm not trying to raise a herring, it's just an open-ended question as
Indicated he
to.
was a vet.
Your father?
Huh?
Your father?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm using his death certificate because I actually had to get them.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so, I just can't remember, but that was 10 years ago, so I'll look at his death certificate that I
I mean,
have.
we know the fun we have trying to validate the ones that served 150 years ago, but it's also not necessarily easy to validate today. But,
Was Pat Doyle a vet?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But see, that's one of those ones where I can find out very easily,
Yeah.
you know, because I know his family, so. And like I said, as far as I know, he will be buried in his family plot. And I already go to that cemetery, so it's just a matter of adding another flag. The Braggs tell me, keep me informed on who gets buried in the Acton Corner and the Sandburn Cemetery, because that's where they're all buried.
Yeah.
And they have a small association that takes care of that cemetery, and so they they kind of keep me informed about that, so that makes it nice. Maple Grove is, you know, right now, the people that are running it don't have anything to do with me because they're all related to me. So, and that's okay, it's okay. I don't worry about it, because when I go down there and put out the flags, I literally walk the entire cemetery, so I notice new stones right away. And usually, if it's a veteran, they have a veteran stone, so if I've missed one that's buried down there, it's not that hard to add them to my list, and it's not that hard to put a flag out with a holder.
I haven't
I try
trained,
to have extra holders.
I haven't trained my printer to tell me that I asked for something. So many times I'll leave it right here, the last thing I asked for.
We have a couple of people buried down in
Yeah.
Maple Grove that don't have markers, though. They don't have any stones, and they're veterans. They were paupers. One of them, I think, was the Muchmore. Was a Muchmore.
I guess all I'm doing is making everyone aware that that is not an easy thing to necessarily
Well, we
find.
still need to find the town farm cemetery, and I have no idea. I mean, here's the town farm cemetery has over 50-some odd people buried in it.
Yeah,
How many of them are veterans? I don't even know where the cemetery is. I can't put flags out there if I don't know where the cemetery is. I don't know who's buried there. The record that I have, that I got from my mother, she only had confirmation of, I think, one person. I have found one person's name is buried in the town farm cemetery.
yeah, I know Stephen Pollard is. That Pollard Cemetery that's up, I know Joseph, the father was a veteran of 1812, the Algerian Wars. How he died, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I've seen his probate. He could have been a prisoner of war. And there was a lot of those that were ransomed, like today, they ransom for money.
Yeah.
You know, it was a lot of, it's an interesting war, 1812. Actually, 1803 to 1808, the Algerian Turks, fascinating period of time. Anyways, I know the father was that, and I almost think that the son served, but he died in the 50s. But he's buried in that town farm plot.
Right, we got several cemeteries that the Hams from Blueberry Hill Farm want to take me to too, where they think there's some veterans that I just haven't connected with them, because the only time I can connect with them is in the summertime, and
What's
I'm
up-
haying.
What's
Huh?
up there?
He talked about, I think they're, one of them is with.
There's one just over the town line that's in Lebanon that does,
Okay, well, he said it was up back, border their place someplace.
yeah, I think it's 11.
Well, and okay, and it may be in Lebanon, but he wanted to show it to me, and
No,
I
no
wasn't
problem.
gonna turn him
No
down.
problem.
I just haven't got up there to have him, when it's practical to go, we're both really busy. He's haying and running his blueberries, and I'm haying, so it's,
Bickford and Downs is about the only ones that are in there according to the old records.
well, there's somebody else who's like, sort of like Joe Young.
Yeah.
They planted his ashes in their front yard. But I don't know where that is, and they were gonna take me there and introduce me to the people and the whole bit, and I haven't connected with them. I don't even know their name. I mentioned your name and it turned really badly sour south.
Oh,
For
yeah?
some odd reason, those hams don't like you.
I didn't know that.
Don't know.
That's
I
weird.
decided I was treading on ice, on thin ice, and I
That's
backpedaled very quickly.
Totally new to me.
You evidently did something to offend them.
I'll have to find out. That's weird.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, we never know.
I know how that works, you know.
Okay. I guess we're,
Who actually takes care of the physical well-being of these cemeteries? Is there a group that takes care of them?
some of them have trust funds, but of course, they're not worth very much.
I was just thinking, there's one where the back wall is fallen in. It's one of the cemeteries right out here on the H Road. The back wall is fallen in. I just wonder who,
Oh, that, with the granite stones? Is that the one you're talking about? The large ones?
yeah,
The large granite? Yeah. That obviously is the,
Is that the salmon?
yeah, on that side.
Okay, yeah.
So they just need to do the stonework.
That would be, yeah, they have
Yeah.
I don't know if it's an association or if it's just a group of people that I'm assuming it's an association.
Yeah.
But they're the ones that take care of them, the two cemeteries, the ones that are across the road from each other?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they're the ones that take
Yeah,
care of
that's been down a couple of years now.
Because I was the one that called, I think I called Claire. And I said, who do I call to talk to about your person mowing your cemetery? And she said, why? And I said, 'cause he went in there and he mowed right over stones. He clipped them right off, the short stones. I said, he had a great big huge riding tractor in there. I don't even know why he would even take a big riding tractor in there. It's a push mowing job, that's what it is. And then because he desecrated we have a veteran stone in there that's broken in half, and it's made out of marble. And we had the halves together. And I don't know what he did with the half that was broken off, it was completely gone.
Yeah, Civil War vet, Sam Willie.
Yeah, Sam Willie, Civil
Yeah.
War vet, and it's completely gone. The top part's completely gone. And I had it all set up for Stephen Roy to come and look at it and see if he could either fix it or his recommendation on what to do with the stone. And it was like, I didn't even bother because I couldn't find the top, couldn't find it anywhere. I don't know what he did with it. And usually when you're maintaining a cemetery, you don't do anything with the stone if it breaks. You get somebody, a professional in there to either fix it or, unless you know how to do it yourself. And where that's a private cemetery, I don't know what he did. He didn't last, they fired him, I guess. I don't know. I was desecrated. I have relatives buried in I always get confused which one's which on which side. I have to look at my notes. My great aunt's buried in there. She was married to Blaine Grant. I think it's Blaine Grant.
Well, I guess we beat that.
Okay, so I guess this is where we ask you what's been going on your side of this. We're into new business here.
Well, basically, I just wanted to come to the meeting here. I'm just trying to get a grasp on what you folks actually do. So, which is kind of an interesting thing to try to find out, so. We've talked, in our office, we've talked about the cemeteries as well. And, my understanding was that was something you folks kind of helped take care of, is that correct?
Yeah, it's not a primary function of the committee, but it's something that's always been allotted to it.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. I guess I could give an overview and say, when the committee was formed, the resource plans and everything else came through this committee. And so the basis of the resource map was formed by the Conservation Committee from way back. State law changed it from a mapping process to a legal process. You know, they started to identify the resource rather than saying, this is what we're protecting. They're trying to say, how do you define what we're protecting? So a wetland is not a mapped area. It's something that has physical parameters, physical quantities.
Vegetation.
Yeah, and be that as it may, that's what the law is. So that sort of changed a lot of the focus on a lot of committees. Statewide, there used to be a lot more conservation committees than there are now, because land trusts are doing a lot of the things that the towns allotted to the conservation committees. So it's left everybody adrift, you know, and the Maine Association of Conservation Commissions, I guess, has been trying to find a way to put some teeth back into the committees.
Which is one of the things that I do. I go to the board meetings for that, go up to Augusta several times a year.
But it's still primarily set up, well, as it is set up, it's an advisory committee.
So quite a few things then get shifted from you folks to the, who's co-councilors, the planning board. Things get kind of shifted in that direction, or?
Well, the planning board is definitely a regulatory body, as we are, you know, if you have an issue, for example, a few years ago, the select people had I don't know, they never came before the town, but it's something that's within our purview to express an opinion on. The trash debacle that was going on at the Apple Shed was something we had input on. The town pound, which is a town asset, is something that by law we have insight into, or advisory site. Any large parcel, if the town decided to sell the town forest, we would behoove to say something about that. The state also gives us the function of inventorying natural resources, particularly open space. Well, some towns have open space committees. We don't. So it's really a wash of what's going on. So we still continue to meet. We say why, which is why we
Well,
said,
we used to handle the forestry part of it too, and that got pulled away.
yeah.
The forestry committee.
And all the rec was part of it. The rec was all part of it. So
Yep.
for whatever reason, it's behooved us, you know, the town has still let this core piece of this large thing survive, and that's us. So what do we function? Well, when I first came on the board, I asked for a statement of the select people that were there. I said, this is a statement of needs that this committee might have, or a statement of assets that we might have. Now, I think we're an asset to the town, but we're not necessarily drawn upon.
Nobody's, other than Nancy Rumor coming and saying, help us with the trash thing.
Yeah.
There really hasn't been anybody who has come to us and said they needed a specific thing from us that would fall within the perimeters of what we do.
And part of that is because there's a body of experts out there that determine what wetlands are. Now, when this committee was formed, the experts, you couldn't get better experts than what was on this committee. You know, we had, you know, you had a county forester, a county game warden, you know, we had a couple of local people that knew the town very well, which is a good piece of it. And, you know, between us, we know the town fairly well. I know probably historical references better than some. And I have just my own bias that if you know where the town's been, you have a better idea of where you might like to see it go. So it's just a bias. Some people might disagree with that one, but that's just my own.
So kind of as the town has grown then, would it be safe to say there was split-offs from this board then?
Oh, absolutely.
In a way?
Absolutely.
It's grown into other committees and other departments.
And yet the comprehensive plan, as it was set up, and is still set up, keeps throwing all these things at us. You know, it's like, well, and the Conservation Committee, and the Conservation Committee, and the Conservation, well, all right. But state law does not tell us to interfere with the planning board. But if they ask for our advice,
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
well, sometimes we go on site walks.
Yeah.
yeah, I've been on several. We went on a couple, one in, when was it, in September? A little after that, I guess it was in October. But, so I guess it's, you know, we can continue to meet with the same guidelines, and you say, well, what is the real task? You've got a beginning of habitat report, you've got national wetlands inventories. I mean, there's no sense reinventing that wheel. In 1974, they didn't have those to that degree. So the state has gone in and done a lot of things. And then your land trusts have done a lot. So the maps at the land trust, when I was on the planning board, we didn't have that years and years ago. We had our own resource maps. We developed overlays, and then the town bought overlays, so part of your own tax maps include wetlands. So, I mean, a lot of the function that was here is not here, is not. But there's still the advisory capacity, which is, okay, you got the information, do you want an opinion on it? Do you want an opinion relative to Acton on it, you know? And I guess that's what both the function of this committee, and I might as well bring it up, the forestry committee, follows in the same vein.
We got a
you know.
majority of the forestry.
Yes, we do.
Still got a forestry? You still got a forestry?
Well, they tell us we're still there, you know? And so this is, it's sort of crazy, you know?
I got nothing on that.
I mean, I wasn't afraid of putting in writing the opinions of this committee for the trash. As I said, if an issue came before the town, we would probably put in writing an opinion again. I think it'll be, you know, there are issues that keep coming forward, like who has jurisdiction on the canal? The road committee, the joint committee, the joint two towns, the state, the town,
The power company.
the feds? Who has jurisdiction? Do we weigh in on that? Well, we've gone to the meetings. The AWA, we go to the meetings. Dam removal on the Mousam, we go to meetings. Something that's on the lower Mousam, it's still tied to the Mousam River, I go to the meetings, you know. Just for the sake of going to meetings? No, not really. It behooves us, if you're in Acton, to go to the meetings.
They found
You know?
an endangered species of snake in Sanford, where they want to build the high school, the new high school. I just found that out.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And-
just a few days ago, and I thought that was interesting.
No, the planning, I don't know if it was the planning board or Tom himself did that, but there was an interest in the legislation on climate change. That was brought before.
That was Tom.
That was,
Tom and Gavin, yeah.
that was brought before the committee. So, but I can count them on one hand, the times we've been asked to actually do something official.
I was on that committee too, when they.
But if you go back and look through the comprehensive plan, you'll see that the committee is referenced a lot. Certainly in the original, I haven't made a complete study between
The new one.
the new and the old, but,
That's good information for me. I can go back up to the board and just see if there's anything out there that we need you folks to do. I'm sure there's plenty of things to be done.
yeah, you know, if the selectmen wanted to weigh in on a piece of property like the Ford property that came up a few years ago, and you say, well, do you have any input at all on it? Yeah, and, you know, you might scratch some notes and come and say, well, this is what we can hand you. You know, that kind of thing. Sometimes it's an esoteric thing, you know, somebody came up and says they found the gravestone to an Aaron Hubbard. And they said, you know, it was up off the Winchell Orchard Road, I believe.
Yes.
And they said, do you know who that is? And I said, yeah, I do. I'm surprised
You're talking
it's
about
there.
Mike Maury, right?
Yeah, you know,
Yes.
so that's the kind of thing, they don't know where to go.
Okay, you're
And-
looking at me and I'm like,
and,
okay, I hope we think about the same
I had a
spot.
doctor from Bethesda come up a few years ago when Lois was on the board, and they wanted to know where the cemetery was. And Lois says, well, maybe Hannah does, and Hannah says, well, maybe Wes does, and I happen to. And so there are, again, the cemetery issue keeps coming up. I
Yeah.
quite often run into people that are,
The school teachers that showed up out of the blue from California
Yeah.
or the Midwest somewhere, they're looking for a grave. And they got sent to my house, and I'm like, oh my, am I gonna be able to find these people? And I found them. I don't know. I went through all my mother's notes and I found them. I took them there and it was like, I had just given them the world because I could take them there. They're buried out in the Stevens Prescott off of Blueberry Hill Farm Road. And, the relatives. And they were here for a convention, some kind of a teaching thing. And, they were up Maine.
Prescott's or
actually.
Hilton's?
Yeah, they were up, yeah.
Prescott's or Hilton's?
Hilton's.
Yeah.
It was Hilton's.
Yeah, I know the family.
Just as you go through the gate, it's right there. It's one of the stones, and there was 2 stones they were looking for. And
Yeah,
it was pretty neat.
That was
Pretty
it.
neat.
There's 2 Andrew Ebbs. One built my house and the other is buried up there, but didn't, no, the one that's buried up there did build my house. And then there's another one. Anyways,
It's a good to be able to do that for somebody that comes so far, and they figure while they're here, they would, try to see where their ancestors were buried, where they came from. It's important to people, very important.
Pretty soon you won't be able to get to a lot of those anyway.
Well, that
The
particular
amount of posted
cemetery
land we're
is,
having now.
that particular cemetery, the only thing it has wrong with it is woodchucks.
Right now, the land that's, used to be accessible is all posted now.
yeah, I know, it's harder and harder, and that raises, we know...
If there is a cemetery, if you know where the cemetery, it's hard to say this, but nobody can stop you from going to a family cemetery if you have relatives buried there. They can't stop you. It doesn't matter if it's posted or not. They cannot stop you. But you have to know right where the cemetery is, and you have to be able to walk right to it. You can't just walk up and knock on their door and say, there's a cemetery on your property that has people buried in it, but I don't know where it is. I wouldn't, and most people, if there's a cemetery on their property, they know where it is when they buy the property. It's been pointed out to them, or they've come across it in their own, maneuverings around their property. I can't see where anyone would,
Well,
not know where a cemetery was if they, explored their property to any degree,
I'm not,
At one point, we got IDs too.
Yeah, we did. I don't know, but I might still have mine
Oh, mine's
somewhere.
probably in my bag there too, but we did have IDs saying who we were if they said, what are you doing?
Yeah. And when I put out the veterans flags, I got my flags. I'm waving my flag. Everybody knows where I'm going.
well,
It's just before Memorial Day, and that right there is kind of a free ticket. I haven't come across anybody that's anti-American yet.
we're still finding plots out there, and still finding the information of people that are in them. We've located a number of Revolutionary War soldiers who, I know that Shapley has 18 and we had a bigger population than they did. We should have 18. That'd be funny, but, I'm not.
Well, Tammy
Speculate.
brought us, when we found the cemetery for the Gilmans,
Yeah.
for the Gilmans, we found, what, 3?
Yeah.
We found 3 veterans. So, and 2 of them are patriots, right?
Good. Yeah, two of them, definitely.
3 veterans, 2 of them are patriots. You know,
Everybody kind of thinks of veterans as being World War II and this one. There's a lot the other way.
There's an awful lot of Civil War vets out there, and
yeah.
Yeah,
the validating it is sometimes a little difficult, but there's a lot of them out there, and they didn't necessarily have to be sons of Acton, you know.
Well, and that's
You
the
know.
other thing too. We have monuments that list all the people that served from Acton.
But they're not necessarily
But
buried
they're
here.
not necessarily buried here, but we have people who served from other towns that are buried here that served in those wars. So there could be people that served in the Civil War that are buried here in Acton, but they didn't come from Acton.
it was the West.
They had ties to Acton in one way, shape, or form. They married somebody in Acton, and so they're buried here.
The one I referenced earlier was buried at sea in 1803. You say, you know, but he was a son of Acton. So does he get a monument? Does he get a flag? Yeah, why not? You know, why not? You know, if you know his father's plot, why not?
And that was a cemetery that we found.
Well, so you can see these two little items are sort of strange. The meeting parameters, we haven't changed them at all. I just stuck them, but I just wanted to make sure we tried to do better with getting out of here a little more rationally than we often do.
Well, it depends how good a time you're having usually.
But I'd like to find, I'll take the blame. It's easier to take the blame than tell you.
Yeah.
And I'm quoting your Uncle George, what's your pleasure in terms of officers? Because I don't know if we had a legal meeting that defined the officers. We're supposed to do that once a year, and I'm not sure we had one.
No, I don't think we have enough people
So
to do it.
I'm raising it, I'm putting us on notice.
Well, I'm not an official member.
Nope, so you-
I guess,
no, so-
I guess they want me to be a member. I can join again. I don't have any problem with that. I really wish that Lois would come to the meeting. She's an asset. And she hasn't come for a long, long time.
So the other thing I put down here is, you had mentioned there might be a new guy, and the law says you can have 5 to 7, I think.
Yeah.
So if you thought it would make the board more effective,
And he's a
that's your
he has a
discussion.
forestry
You know, so, you know, that could be brought up. that-
degree in forestry.
Yeah, you know, to make the board, you know, it's hard to get people out, you know? So if you had, that's an option by law, so I just thought I'd throw it out.
He's a young man and he's got a degree in forestry. He knows about invasive species. He's pretty knowledgeable, and he's a Marine. He's a young fella, got a young family, you know.
Fine by me. But-
If he's still interested. He was interested when I talked with him a ways back, so. No, I
So
just
would you
thought-
have him approach the select people, or would you have?
Well, I would have him come to our next meeting if he's available.
But since it's an appointed position, it's still...
Well, you can see whether he's interested before he goes and
Yeah, I
asks.
want to see
Okay.
if he's still interested.
All right.
If he can come to our next meeting, which is in December, so he may not be able to. You know, we close to Christmas, probably. What time, when would our next meeting fall? Do you know what date?
No, I don't.
Does anybody have a
You got
calendar?
calendar?
Because I don't have a calendar.
No,
It's a good thing you called. I kept thinking it was next week.
I know, I wanted
No,
to
no,
be,
no,
because
no,
I'm
no, no,
unprepared.
no. You would not have got me here next week.
Well, you know what it was they liked the picture on the calendar, so I left it on October for free.
We can jump over we can jump over the school issue totally if you want to. I just
No,
threw it
well, I
out.
would like to know, I heard
The Young's
that
Ridge
somebody
School? Yeah.
drove into it, but other than that, I
Well,
haven't been over there to look.
Dennis Long, when he was select people, gave us a list of the town properties. I haven't seen an updated one of small parcels, other parcels that you either put up to sale, you keep, you want, whatever. I I'm not asking for that. I'm just, because I could go find it by looking at the tax maps. But, I don't believe the property that the school is on is anything to do with the town. I think it's totally private.
Yeah, it is.
But it's just,
I think it's owned by the people that.
it's owned,
that-
everything is owned.
Yeah.
You know, I went and looked at it along with Dick a couple of weeks ago, just for the sake of taking a look at it. And, it is historically an asset of the town. The town has, it has a historical attribute to it.
Yeah, I've talked with Mrs. Barrows.
Yep.
She would really like to get it repaired and keep it as it has been, okay?
On the site that it has been, as it has been.
And,
yeah.
the only thing is that she'd like to be able to repair it in place. And the code officer said, no, she has to move it
Yeah.
further back into the field.
Yeah.
There'll be, I think it's coming up again Thursday evening at the planning board. And, my personal view, I'd hate to see it torn down,
Agreed. Yeah.
It's one of the few remaining historical buildings.
It's a piece of that town. It's a piece of that region of the town. You come there, you expect to see that building.
I'd hate to see it torn down myself.
Yeah.
So, as they say, I don't know if anybody's interested in coming to the planning board on Thursday evening. May not do any good. But, the big problem we have is that Kenny is scared that certain members of the planning board, that if they don't make her put it back, and there's another accident down the road somewhere, that the insurance company or whoever runs into it, sue the town and the planning board for damages.
Well,
Oh, no, we don't want to be sued,
sometimes you have to, take a look at that whole type of thing, I guess it's a matter of, for me, it's about fear. It's about fear.
Yeah.
You either let fear rule you, or you face it head on. Fear, being afraid, and being courageous doesn't mean that you're not without fear, it just means that you do it anyways. And it's like, okay, so do you live in fear of a lawsuit every day of your life? I have a pond right next to the road. I put it in, okay? I put it in because there's a wet spot there. We always get stuck with our stupid baler. So we decided, well, what the blazes? We'll dig a hole, we'll dig a pond. We dug a pond, we put the pond in, and we put in a dry hydrant, and we got for that corner, I don't know if you know it, I don't even know if you've told anybody, but because there's a dry hydrant within so many feet of your house, you should get a reduction in your homeowner's insurance, okay? So all the people that live around me benefit from it, and our insurance went up because it's so close to the road. And it's like,
Go figure.
would I not dig the damn
Go
pond?
figure.
No, I would
Go
have done the
figure.
pond anyways. It doesn't matter to me. Go ahead, raise it as high as you want. I'll
Yeah.
pay what I can pay.
You can't
The thing
win.
is, you can't win. It isn't gonna matter. You could move that building way back, and I'm gonna tell you this. Look at the houses down in Sanford. I'm sorry, there's only a sidewalk between the road and the house. Most of them, you walk out the steps and you're right on the sidewalk. So if a car goes off the road, is it the town that's gonna get sued? Because they hit the house? I mean, it's common sense, and I get that there's no common sense in any form of government anymore, but it's common sense. If somebody is driving that fast, that reckless, and they hit that building, they have a problem. And I think the town could countersue and scare them worse than what they would ever scare the town, if that's the way it goes. I just don't think it's it's something, it's an area that we really need to worry so much about. We're so worried about whether we're gonna get sued by somebody, that it stops us, it gridlocks us from doing anything.
Yeah.
We end up not doing anything. Oh, let's just rip it down, let's just rip it down, it'll be easier to rip it down. It's always easier to just rip it down and leave an empty hole.
The major problem here is that supposedly, according to the zoning ordinance, it says that for a non-conforming building and it's damaged, more than 50% of the value, and the cost of repair it, more than 50% of the value, then it has to meet all current code requirements. And
Yeah.
that's what Kenny was hanging his hat on right there.
Well, he can hang his hat on it. As far as a historical asset though, it's priceless. As a historical asset, it's priceless.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So
its value should be higher than.
And the person that hit the building is gonna be paying, their car insurance is gonna be paying for that building to be repaired. I know, because I went off the road and took out a wall, and my insurance had to pay for it.
one of the problems Mrs. Barrow has run into is the insurance, the adjuster for the car insurance company, going to talk to her and everything, and they're looking at it, well, it's just a real old building and there's no value, so all of a sudden, they declared it, irreparable, not worth the cost of repairing. And to be honest with you, what they have told her is they want her to have her homeowner's insurance sue the car insurance company and see if they can work out a deal. So it is whether the insurance company pays for it or not, or for full or whatnot, I have a feeling that Mrs. Barrows will turn around and kick in the extra because she really wants to get it, rebuilt to what it was. And, to me, it isn't like if there's a residential building and everything's gonna be perfect because you don't want, heat to escape or whatnot. If there's a gap between the boards or whatnot, or the floor or something like that, then we're gonna be, noticeable from the outside, so, it doesn't have to be perfect.
yeah.
And like Hannah said, get back to risk, there's always a risk, you never eliminate.
Look at,
100%.
And of course, a lot of the value of the,
Reduce risk. Now, one of the things that I mentioned at the last, planning board meeting was that I feel that there's room in front of it, that if it gets repaired in place, that there either some large rocks stuck in the ground or some kind of barrier could be made right in front of the building that would not detract from it. And I think Mrs. Barrows would go along with that. And one of the things that,
how far from is that a state road? Is Youngs
No.
Ridge a state road?
no,
Okay, so how far from the center line to the side of the road does the town own?
I'm not sure on that.
Because,
But one of the things that is very noticeable, that if you see the way Acton Ridge comes out and then Buzzell Road comes out, the intersection is way about 100 feet in front of the school.
The building, yeah.
What has happened over the years, the road commissioners have paved in that part of
yeah,
the triangle.
okay, but the
So
town only owns so many feet from the center of the road to the side. So if the tar goes beyond what the town owns, that's the town's problem,
Yeah, no.
okay?
That's what he's saying.
I'm trying
Yeah.
to determine how far, because if you put up rocks, if the owner agrees to have rocks put up, they have to be put up beyond
The town,
the town's ownership, okay? Because my rocks are beyond the town's ownership. Okay? We measured in from the town line, from the center road on the Garden Road extension, we measured in and we put those rocks up. So now the cars that go off and land in my pond have to go through rocks first. It didn't reduce my homeowner's insurance though. The thing is that, those rocks would have to be on her property, not on the town.
I
And
think this is,
it might help establish, you know, the town's ownership, where the town actually owns to, and, cause see, the state road, they own further, their footage is further, that's why I asked if it was a state or a town road. So, it is a quandrum, I would not want to be in her position, but,
Yeah, it was probably worth bringing up.
well, you know,
It's a hard one. It really is a hard one to weigh on.
Well, yeah,
You know.
and it is a hard one to weigh in on, and my hat goes out to her, I hope, because if she decides to do the battle, she very well could lose. Because that's just the nature of the beast, you know? And end up, if she wants the building repaired, end up footing her whole homeowners might have to foot the bill all together, and her homeowners may refuse. Now, I don't know what her homeowner's coverage is for outbuildings, you know? So, and, it isn't on a historical registry. I know at one time it was offered to the Historical Society. They wanted the Historical Society to take it over. And at the time, the Historical Society refused because they didn't want to buy it, because she was selling it. It wasn't expensive, I don't think. I don't remember, and I don't even know how long ago it was. I know it was something that, because I know the Historical Society went up there and toured the building. They went inside it and the whole bit.
Yeah.
I think
I
Kathleen
know-
Long had pictures of it.
As with the Lincoln School, the state is interested in saving one-room schoolhouses. There is a drive to try to, you know, so the fact that I think we've concluded that it does have a historical value, you know, whether the insurance company and the homeowners agree to that, but we say it has a historical value.
The town may have to weigh in on it.
I mean, the town may have to weigh in on it. Well, the whole nation weighed in on saving the U.S. Constitution. I mean, and that's the flagship of the United States Navy.
Well, okay.
They had to weigh in on it.
So you know, there's, the Hilton Ridge School's been converted into a house. Fox's Ridge School's been converted into a house.
Maple Grove, Maplestone, the one down on Front Street.
Well, Riverside
Right.
School has been converted into a restaurant with the river, I don't know what Ted Kryzak called his school, but his school converted it into a restaurant for teaching purposes. There's a schoolhouse on the Hopper Road, the place where it's the Red House going down there, it's close. Who used to live there?
On the right-hand side?
Yeah, that's a schoolhouse.
Really?
It was an old schoolhouse, I just found that out.
Going down the Hopper.
The Hopper Road, down, it's on the, if you're going down the Hopper Road from here,
I know what you
it's
mean,
on the right. He was on the school board.
Oh, okay, so I
You
never,
remember, his wife always had her kids at home.
well, my house is very similar to mine. I never realized that it had been a school.
Well, it's a schoolhouse. A friend of my kids, my older kids.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Just bought it.
Yeah.
Katie Yon, well, she's
Yeah,
not a Yon
yeah.
now, but she's got twin girls in school. She just bought it. And then,
I'm trying to think.
and that's how I know it's a schoolhouse, because it's in her deed. It's right in the deed that it was a schoolhouse. So there's another schoolhouse, but it's been converted into a house. The Lincoln Schoolhouse is a schoolhouse. And the Young Ridge School is a schoolhouse, but it's not in as near as good a shape as the Lincoln Schoolhouse. What was the name of the schoolhouse that was on Freeman Grant's property? Was that the Hubbard School?
Most likely, yeah.
Whose
Yeah.
property?
Freeman's.
On the corner, across from where Ty Baker lives. And, well, you got Jim Driscoll, that was the Hubbard School.
Franklin, you said? Yeah.
And it was completely there when I was a kid growing up. It had all the chalkboards, everything. And Terry Grant ripped it all apart, stored hay in it, and then it slowly disintegrated and fell down.
Well, just like that one that was across from Neil's house there on the triangle. That was still standing when...
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. Yep,
Oh, it completely fell apart,
yep,
yeah.
yep.
Yeah, the
What
present
was that, the
land,
Hubbard School, you said?
I don't know if it's the Hubbard or
You
the
called it the
Franklin.
Franklin?
I thought it was the Hubbard School, but it could be the
Well-
Franklin. And of course, the Acton Corner School is the library,
Yeah.
and, then,
I have a question for you. Does everybody know where Bob Benson's place is, across
Yeah.
from Irvin Pillsbury? There's supposedly a building there that I have been told was the original Acton Corner School.
Where was that?
On Bob Benson's property.
I don't know about.
If you go up the driveway, there's a little well house, and then there's a place, it looks like a garage now. And,
I haven't been up in there in a while, but you're right, there is a small building there, yeah.
I did-
I used to hate that field, it's, you know,
according to the 1780 map, that's probably the place where it's listed as the Acton Corner School.
Yeah, it very, very well could be.
And then, but, I've been, was gonna try to write a letter to Bob Benson to ask if he had any historical information about it or not.
well, I threw the next one out just for the sake of it. Is any resources of concern that you know of?
So if anybody's got any ideas of what we can do to preserve the Young Bridge School, open to suggestions. You know,
Don't know.
there were 4 or 5 people that went to the last planning board meeting and so, spoke up in favor of supporting, Mrs. Barrow's request. As
No, all I can,
they postponed it till tomorrow night, no, not tomorrow night,
Thursday night.
Thursday night.
I don't know how that,
Keep thinking of something going on Thursday night, and I can't remember what it
I
is.
don't know what the comprehensive plan spoke to about historic resources relative to us. I have to go back and look at it. The original one did. But the remake, I'm not sure, but, would you want to draft something to promote the, I certainly,
Well, I would talk to Gavin since he obviously will be at the meeting.
yeah, it's,
Yeah.
But I mean, he's the one that brought it up, actually.
Well, they're happy to have you.
Hold on, I'll talk to you about the school.
yeah, it's, I know that, you know, the guy that stopped when we were looking at it is relatively new to town. And, you know, that's an important piece in his life. He walks by it, you know, it's just a local resident, but hey, I don't want to see that building go. You know, so, you know, we feel that way about fences in place. You know, I hated to see Johnny Hobbs' barn come down.
Yeah.
That one really
Well,
bothered me.
and in
That really bothered me.
In New Hampshire, they have a statewide initiative to save
save
old
old
bonds.
bonds.
To save old bonds.
Because I've worked
Because they're
that,
disappearing just as fast and as rapidly, and the new bonds are not being built the same way. They're not being built the same, with the same structural integrity or whatever. And old bonds have some character. They had a whole thing on it on
But-
PBS, because they went all over the country, but I just think it's interesting. And then you got the people up, I can't even remember where, they're in Maine. They're
Well,
saving they're
you know,
rebuilding a railroad,
if
an
it-
old railroad.
if
They
it,
got the old tanker.
Yeah.
Yeah,
if it has to be moved, that's one thing. But, you know, if it could be kept where it is, that would be even nicer.
That would be-
You know.
Yeah, because of course, where it is kind of important too.
the thing is that it doesn't matter, even if the homeowners fights the automobile and gets the automobile people to pay to repair it, they probably will not pay to have it moved. They will have it repaired in place. because that's what, it's a structure. You repair it in place. That's how it works. So I think that puts a burden on her, that just because the town's afraid of being sued. And one, the school, it's on her property. I think if you measure from the center of the road, you'll find that the school does not fall within the perimeters of town ownership. A car went off the road, which means the car did something to go off the road unless the road was icy. So unless the town doesn't plow and keep the road sanded and causes a hazard, how would the town be liable if somebody else goes off the road and hits our building because of the distance from the road? I understand that the grandfather law doesn't work because of the way the codes are written. That doesn't, to me, that doesn't make any sense, but it's what happened. I probably didn't vote for it, but it got passed anyways. I'm just saying that.
That's what she's stuck with.
Right, and-
Because of the way the code is written,
And if I know if I was in her shoes, I'd be slapping a piece of paper on the table saying, this is what the insurance will pay for. And then you're telling me that I can't have this done because it doesn't fall within the perimeters of the thing. So in other words, the building will sit right where it is, unrepaired, until it falls down. Have a nice day, and I would walk out. That's what I would do. That's what I would do. Because you have choices. You get the building repaired by the people who can pay for it to have it repaired in place. You move the building, and you end up having to make all the repairs and pay for the cost and the moving, okay? Or you just let it sit unrepaired. And that's what I would do. Fine. You don't want to give me the permits to get it fixed so that my insurance company can fix it, then I will just let it sit there just the way it is, damaged, and it will slowly rot away. And that's what I would do. Now, yes, there are people that might come forward, they might start a fund. There's the Maplestone School, which does a lot of help in areas like that, but they are also bound by the laws of the town as far as, permitting
It does
and
seem
stuff.
like part of the issue is what is the value of the building is being assessed at, that seems to be a part of that whole thing,
What does the town assess it for?
Yeah, you're saying 50% of
Town
that.
town only assesses it right now for $5,000.
So 50% means that it was at least $2,500 worth of damage.
The cost estimate she has right now, I think it's completely ridiculous, but it is $75,000.
You're right, it is completely ridiculous.
That's crazy. No, totally. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy.
$10,000 to that side.
It's a rough construction. That's totally crazy. I mean,
Yeah, who
a
gave
few
her-
crowbars, you put the stones back into place. Come on now.
Is this
I mean,
somebody
this-
saying that it's gotta be done by a historical expert, and that's why it's gonna cost $75,000?
No.
My word.
But
Wow.
anyways, we go to the meeting Thursday night and see what's what.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that seems to be, but, yeah, okay.
Yeah, that doesn't something sounds off there. Something definitely sounds off there.
Yeah.
It didn't cost us that much to get the floor jacked up and the foundation fixed on the Lincoln Schoolhouse.
No. What was that? I forget what that was, 7,000 or something?
Yeah,
I think it was 7,000.
it doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any
No,
sense.
it is wrapped, but you apply the same force and there's some broken
You
pieces
can
in
always
it.
contact Harlan Eastman.
But
He'll come in and weigh in. Oh, he's got a battle on his hands. Yeah, as Southern Maine Medical Center wants to discontinue use of Goodall Hospital. They're saying it isn't up to code. They want to shut down the Newton Center, they want to shut down the pavilion, and they want to stop using the hospital. I'm not kidding you. That was the worst thing that Goodall Hospital ever did, was to let them take them over.
Well, that was,
Worst thing that they ever did. A lot of the promises they made never came through.
well, that was a historic asset.
Yeah.
Any of the natural ones that you're concerned about?
Huh? Yeah.
Anything that's jumping out?
Natural ones, yeah, okay. So, we have, we have the town forest, you know. There's a large parcel of land that has now recently gone up for sale in South Acton. Stretches between what they call the Orchard Road, Winter Orchard Road, and, the new road, or Hebo.
Yeah, there's,
That's and the price, it's a invitation for, that's an invitation for housing development.
That's the town forest that's down there that,
Yeah,
the town forester had all the good trees cut out of it.
it was high graded, yeah. It was high graded from what I understand, yeah.
No,
I didn't know that it had been logged down there. I
He's
know-
talking about the forest.
He's talking about the,
Town forest.
the town forest, yeah,
no,
yeah.
still a town forest, but,
But there's no
Well, this
forest.
is private, this is private,
Yeah.
this is a private piece.
She was saying there's a piece next to it, or near it, that's
oh, yeah.
private, that's
Yeah.
up for sale, that, I don't know what their access, at,
159,000, they're asking for it. It's, I think they have it advertised as 100 acres. I'm not sure if it's been surveyed or not.
Is that the one that's been advertised in the,
Yeah, it's the last piece of my mother's estate.
that was your mother's?
Yep.
That was the piece that she put up where we were gonna put the trailer park.
oh, that's the old Shorey lot,
It's called Clinton Ricker Place. We always called it the Clinton Ricker Place.
D. Ricker,
Yeah.
Clinton D. Ricker.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't a Ricker, but it was a DeWitt. Yeah,
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
owned
that
by
was
her
a-
and Arthur.
yeah, it was
Together.
it was
And
originally,
his daughter-
there was an old cemetery down there too.
Yeah, I don't know where it is.
It's right next to the road.
Well, I
On
don't, I
that
still,
knoll,
just
on the
because it's
knoll.
right next to the road don't mean nothing.
It's on, it's next to the Orchard Road.
Okay,
Just before that last knoll, before you get down to the Gauding. So it's that last knoll before you get real steep and nasty traveling.
yeah,
And the graves were all moved because a bunch of them were in Maple
Yeah.
And, the daughters are up in the Hilton property. And, that was somebody that was born in 1730, so he was an old fella when he came into town. But he was a Revolutionary War vet, and, he was an older Revolutionary War vet. And, that's, yeah, Shorey.
yeah.
You know, that's it, because they married into the Hiltons. You know, but, and they also married into there's another old the Marshes.
Yeah, the marshes.
They married, because the Marshes are old too, but,
Anyways, that's up for sale, that's a concern. It's a big concern.
but you know, you talk about the town forest being cleaned over, and it was, but the town still has it. So, you mean, what's the policy going forward on that? You know, it isn't gonna be cut for quite a while, you know,
No.
but, you know, it could be looked at. I mean, we could, you know, I don't know if anybody's done a write-up or a workup on that parcel, you know, just to, you know, a stewardship plan for it, or you know, we've batted it around, because it's hard for the public to get any use out of it, because it's no easy access. But, it still doesn't mean that the town shouldn't have a stewardship plan for it, or a plan going forward of what they want to do with that. The same way as a town farm, same thing, bad access, but you still should have a plan as to what you want to do with it, how we should be managing it.
Well, it should be
you know.
stewarded.
Plus, that too has a historic asset
It
to
was
it.
one of the reasons
you know.
why they separated the forestry from the conservation committee, was because they wanted to have the forestry committee, take charge of the town forest and manage them. And actually, you know, be stewards. Be the stewards in place of the selectmen. This was an organization, a committee that was going to manage the town forest. And if you go into a managed woodlot, it's pretty impressive. I mean, I haven't gone to the, Small Woodlots Association meetings, because usually they're way up Maine, Bangor, or further. But there's a viable group of people that meet, and they
Oh.
teach people how to manage their
Richard Ness is
woodlots.
vice president.
Who?
Richard was vice president.
Yeah, still is.
He still is.
According, I think it came in the mail.
I said
the
Richard
other day.
Ness is vice
Richard Ness?
president.
Really? Is the-
Of that small woodlot owners.
Oh,
association.
okay. Well, he has a nice looking woodlot.
It's been for years and years.
He's got a really nice.
I guess I just
woodlot.
threw that out because, you know, it's a project that we could look at, you know, in terms of just at least
Well,
nothing more
maybe
than
we
getting
should
it.
invite him to one of our meetings, so he could talk about the town forest and how to manage them.
Well, we've gone to a couple of town forest meetings for different groups. There was one over in, was it Nelfred? A couple of years or so ago?
We went
Because there was Shapley people were there, but I think it was in
Yeah, I
Alfred.
went to ones in Shapley too, in
Ah.
Newfield.
It was in Newfield?
Wasn't it at the museum?
No, that was
Well,
that was Forest Works. That was, I think, but the one that was at the museum was about...
I think I went to another one that was
Okay,
upstairs.
all right.
But,
You could be right.
I don't know, yeah, but I mean, we certainly have gone to town forest things.
We've gone to a lot of different meetings on the watershed groups. Salmon Falls Rivers has been active, but the forestry just keeps popping up because the Forest Works and other that have been under the purview of the river, the trust has asked for planning boards, conservation boards to get involved with their projects, and which is fine, since they're supplying, you know, a lot of the maps that tell us what the town has for assets they've worked on. So we've gone to those meetings, and one of the things they put out was a program on how town forestry are used statewide and beyond, you know, as either an economic engine or a public park or whatever, you know, and
I'm still trying to get to the one in Newington. It's one of the oldest, if not the oldest, town forest in the country.
okay. But, you know, we could scope it out in a workshop or something, you know, just what we know about it, at least. Add to the history as well as, because it is, you know, as long as the town has it, it's a natural resource, and it also has a historical quality to it, you know, but. I don't think there's anything else there,
No?
unless there was, I put other in case somebody had some ideas beside me.
It would be interesting to be able to know, to get a better accurate mapping, I think, of where the silver mines are.
Where the what are?
Silver mines,
Oh, the silver mines?
yeah.
You know,
I know where the one that got filled in is, but that's about it.
There's a map somewhere, isn't there?
I have the old assay
Because there
maps.
were like 12 or 15 of them or something.
Yeah, I have the assay reports from the Portland Mining Company.
The other thing that would be an interesting thing to find would be the stone bridge. That's on private property, but it spans between the Great Pond, the Great Pond behind what was my mother's property.
And what's underwater?
Borders on, it's on Mark. Yeah, well, it's underwater, it's probably underwater now because there's beaver out there.
Right.
But, when
But
there's.
even when you didn't have beavers there, I think it only showed up that year we had the
Yeah,
2-year
it would
drought.
only show up when it was really, really dry. Yep, but the stone bridge is that was part of the roadway, it was part of the passage. The driveway that went up, or that my parents used, was a road. And it connected with the road that comes out across from the Orchard Road where the schoolhouse is. So you had the schoolhouse, Mills Road, that road came down there, and then this road came like this, so it paralleled with the Town Farm Road, sort of. This road comes out somewhere over on the Town Farm Road. This road came down through, and it could have, I don't think it was just a logging road, though it was used. It came over the hogbacks. That was a road, because people built their houses really close to the road because of snow removal. So the stone bridge is part of that roadway, and it goes between the two swamps, because there's two big swamps out there.
See, that property back in 1780 was Elijah James's, and then it went from Elijah to the Hubbards. Hubbards butted up against it. So it was James and Hubbard, and I've seen references in the old deeds paralleling to those two lots, but
And I
the
know
old
that-
records are fun.
And I know that the people that own out there are really irritated with the beavers because they're flooding their land, but the beavers maintain, I just watched a special on beavers.
All right.
With the droughts out in the Midwest, the only areas that had no problems with water was where there were beaver. And they're coming up with new ways to divert the beavers from damming up culverts. It's really interesting. It's
Yeah.
really interesting. They've got a bunch of
Yeah.
engineers working on this, conservational engineers, as I call them. And they've discovered some really neat ways to get the beavers to build their dams so that they're not actually clogging up culverts that man
Yeah,
has put
there's-
in.
there's a
So
number.
it's kind of really, it was a really interesting,
Yeah, I saw that on, was it on public broadcasting?
yeah, yeah.
It was, it's quite a,
It was, I was watching it because Mr. Gresham, who has inherited his father's place, his father and his sister's place out there, I met him by chance. He came to my house to buy eggs, and I met him. It was wonderful, and he was talking about how he's going to try to learn to live with and work with the beaver out there. And so I thought, geez, next time I get to talk to him, I can tell him.
yeah, if you go out that road that goes to the silver mines, down off the Gauding Road, because it's blocked off now. If you go out there, there's a big pond there that the beavers maintain. And, trying to think of what the name of that area is, but it's right near some of the silver mines down there.
Yeah. Yeah, I know there's a big swamp down in there.
There's a big pond there, that's the beaver pond. At least the last time I was in there, it's still using,
Yeah, it's good. That's good.
yeah.
There's an old stone footbridge down in there too, but it's
Yeah.
not a stone arch, it's a stone footbridge that's quite old, because the arch on the Gauding, coming down at the end of the Winchell Orchard Road, right on the end, is an impressive piece of stonework too.
Yeah.
That's an
Yeah.
impressive stone. Chances are it was built by Phelps, but, because that was Phelps. That was originally Abijah Phelps. He became the first selectman for Limerick when it became a town, but he lived at the Gauding farm.
Right.
Had 3 boys, and the old farm was north of the old homestead is a footing foundation cellar hole that's north of the Gauding Road, because the Gauding
Right.
farm was built by William Gauding.
Right.
But the 3 Phelps boys were Abbott, there was a Jonathan, there was a Nathaniel, and I think Sam. And Jonathan State, Nathaniel died young, because, it's
Well-
interesting how they worked, but,
I can remember, well, down, when you cross over the bridge into Milton Mills, off of
Yeah.
Milton Mills Road, they got the stone pillar with the signpost. I can remember the one that stood on Winchell Corner, down by your house.
Yeah,
Yep, it was always there when I was a kid, I have no idea what happened to it. Now, and it always had signs with the roads,
yeah.
sticking out the top, I can remember.
history, yeah.
It was, and I don't know what happened to it.
I don't know, it wasn't there when I moved there.
There's a stone over on the, across from your house, on the other side of the Gauding Road there. There's a stone over there that's got the surveyors thing.
Oh, the
mounted in it.
USGS thing, yeah.
Yeah. My mother and father used to point them out to us, show them, because they used to keep the brush all cleaned away, so you could see those rocks. Now you can't see them, they're overgrown with brush and everything.
Yeah.
But you used to be able to see all the stone walls, they kept the brushes cleaned away from them. And, so you could walk right over there and look at it. The surveyor's mark. Because there's one in the steps at the church, the
Yeah.
old church at Maple Grove Cemetery.
So, anything else relative to page 2?
Got page 2, I forgot about page 2, sorry,
Well,
rambling.
No, it's just going forward. Yeah, I don't know, we can, that's just a dead committee, but it probably ought to be, ought to do something with it.
Which one, the
The town,
forestry?
yeah, as I said, we can look at the,
Who are the members supposed to be?
Well, is the
three of us right here, and Mark Hurd,
Mark
and
Hurd.
the town forester is the,
Mr. Bodkin?
yeah, he's an adjunct, I don't know if he's a member,
He's automatically.
He's
member,
automatic.
he's
I don't
the
know if
town
you call him a
forester,
member or
yeah.
an automatic.
I think that's how it works.
but,
Was it the town forester?
yeah,
We still have one, don't we?
yeah, we still do.
No, what he does,
Well,
he was not too happy when,
I asked him about cutting down the trees around the schoolhouse, that was probably 3-4 years ago. I met him there at the Lincoln Schoolhouse, about taking down some of the big trees to get them away from the buildings. And he said he wouldn't be able to get anybody to come in there to do it because it wasn't a large enough parcel. And it's like, okay, but you have forestry activity, there's forestry activity going on. So, I don't know why they can't, but I was reading a newsletter from Maplestone Farm. And those kids do their own logging. They've been logging over on the Hobbs farm for the Three Rivers. So I thought, well, maybe that'd be a small little operation. Maybe they could do it and clean out those trees, get them out of there, because the trees encroach and they create dampness. And they're all big pines, and I don't see why they couldn't come out of there.
one's a,
They could-
where is that, at the Lincoln School?
At the Lincoln Schoolhouse, yeah, my idea was to set up
There's a black spruce right there, isn't there? Yeah,
Well, I don't want the spruce to get taken
I think
down.
one of them, I think it's one of them is spruce.
we used to chew spruce gum off
Yeah, I
that
think one of them's a
tree.
black spruce, because,
I don't
I've got a-
really want
I've got
the
a couple of
spruce
small
to be
ones on my lot,
taken
and it's been, I'm surprised, because you don't,
I just want the pine, I think
Seen a
some
lot
of the
of them around
pines
now.
can come and they could clean it up a little bit. It'd be a nice little picnic area. They could
Yeah,
have a picnic
yeah.
table out there, chained down somewhere, so it wouldn't get stolen.
Now, how far over does the property for the Lincoln School?
It's all
go?
fenced. There's a fence that borders that. It's a pretty good sized little
And the
piece
trees
there.
are on which side of the fence?
Huh?
The trees you want to cut out, on which side of the
yes,
fence?
they're on the school side.
They're on the school side, yeah.
On the school side?
I don't know if there's any trees on the other side. It's all field.
I don't know.
But that's something that that I thought our town forester should be able to do since it's a town piece of land and he couldn't do it. So I didn't know what to, I was like, okay, never mind. I had a great idea and it didn't work.
Well, he was not too happy when he had marked out trees on the Mary Grant property to be taken down.
No, well,
And,
They didn't get taken down.
no,
good thing.
some of the committee said, no, you want to take the dead trees out of there, you know, but all the good trees we're gonna leave there.
Yeah,
That just
Flooded, yeah.
Yeah.
sold him on the whole idea, so.
okay.
I know, yeah, it's,
Well, that was.
they live and learn.
I just think that if it's town property, it needs to be maintained, it needs to have stewardship.
Now,
And
well, would there be any aversion to using the county forester as an adjunct, just for information, as a second opinion? It's a county forester. I happen to know him quite well, but, what should we have for a stewardship plan on the town forest? The county forester is trained, he's got different training. He sees things in a little different multi-use domain.
a lot of people don't realize,
I don't think that would cost the town a thing, just to
lot of
say, hey,
people-
would you be willing to go look at the town forest and give us an opinion on what you think the health of it is, or what our options are here for good stewardship?
A lot of people don't realize that they can use the state forestry, and it's free. It doesn't
Oh,
cost
absolutely.
them
No,
anything.
no, absolutely.
A person can have them come in
Yep.
and do their trees,
Yep.
and it doesn't cost them a
no.
dime. When you hire a forester, you have to pay them.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize that. They just don't. I don't know why.
Okay, so we've mentioned a couple of things relative to the town forest. You talk about maybe you could talk to Swam and maybe the county forester. Just,
Yeah, and that's Mr. Nass.
but that doesn't have to be the forestry committee. That,
I wanna make sure I get the right one.
We still have we still have a voice in, it's a town property, so we still have a voice in that. Anyways, on to organizations. Historical Society, I other than talking to you, I haven't done anything with them. We went to the Three Rivers meeting. I went to a meeting at what they call Main Rivers, that's been concerned with dam removal. They did a film down in Kennebunk, so a number of their members are interested. They have a local York County chapter,
Yeah.
and they're interested in the Mousom watershed and protecting it, and they work, a couple of members on their boards are also on the Three Rivers board. The older guy that's from Shapley, Bill, what's his name?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they produced a little film of what the Lower Mousom was like when he was a boy. It's quite good. It's quite good, who would want to fish in the Mousom now, but he remembers when he used to, when it was a lot worse. And wrote a little bit about it. It was interesting.
My great uncle can remember when cattle grazed, where Upper Mousom is.
Yeah.
He can remember them grazing beside the river
Huh.
before the dam was put in.
Hey Wes, did you ever, I think it was last year, there was an article in the Sanford News about this woman that caught this great big salmon right in Sanford at the mills.
Really? Right? He had got that far up.
Yeah.
I'll be darned.
And she just turned around and had it in the newspaper and everything, and, it was illegal for her to keep an Atlantic salmon.
Now, I went to a meeting where I met some of the people in your salmon club, and there probably was some in that meeting, but, I guess I raised the issue because I went to the dam, the canal meeting, as you did, and there was a number of people that were there, and, from Acton, interested in preserving the canal. And, that's another one of those sticky issues. And I said the night before, I had gone to a meeting about dam removal, and the value of it. And I says, these issues are not easy. Do you take dams out? Do you leave them in? Do you want to restore the natural environment for the health of, because it's more, it is healthier if it's restored. If you're utilizing some of the river dynamics that are there, we know a whole bunch about geomorphology, and it would be nice to utilize that. I mean, New Hampshire, there was a river that flows down into Concord that they couldn't keep repaired. They spent dollars and dollars and dollars on it. And finally, they says, why don't we work with the river? Why don't we let the river do what it wants to do and then see what happens? Golly gee, how come? And, you talk about opening up fish coming from the Atlantic, and if it's possible, they took a dam down in Elliott, and I have no know the results on that in terms of what's gone back in there for our wives and others.
Takes several years.
But I know the Winnicott down there was done in New Hampshire 4 or 5 years ago, and that was successful. But here you've got people between Acton and Shapley valuing the historic structures, and we know the historic structures a lot of them had negative impacts on the environment.
Yeah.
So I guess, I'm not trying, again, I'm raising another red herring. But that's exactly what this committee is supposed to do. It's supposed to have, come to a consensus of an opinion as to, do we leave that beaver dam in behind Grisham's? I mean, is it decreasing the property value? Does he own all the land? What if it was encroaching on
That I
his
don't
neighbors?
know. It's over 10, it's covering
Yeah.
over 10 acres. It's covering over 10 acres, he said. Now, and I didn't ask him if it was all on his land. I didn't even think to ask that question.
PBS had a
because-
special-
Because I actually really like beavers
Yeah.
because, see, our beaver pond, when I was growing up, when the beaver were there, we never
had
had
what
a,
to?
we never had a dry well.
No.
It was a hand dug well, but we never had a dry well. When they came in and they dynamited, they trapped and they killed all the beavers, our well went dry. And when our well went dry, it meant that we had to use the outhouse.
Yeah.
So, it's a,
There wasn't, if you go back to the records of the 1790s, the one you're talking about, that was referred to as a pond back then. I mean, there was beavers in there
Yeah.
way back. So it's a natural place, because beavers stay and then move on and then come back after
Yeah.
3 or 4 decades.
I like beavers, I just don't want them to flood the cemetery. Because I have to go there.
Which has been a little tricky sometimes.
Yes, and he's gonna fix the bridge. He is gonna fix the bridge. Thank you.
No more
It's
really hard to separate history. I'll make a pitch, to separate history from conservation. Bill and I went on a little excursion after the Hobbs Walk here a couple of months ago, and but between Hannah and Hobbs, there's that wetland that you cross over on the county road. It
Yeah.
flows both ways. And I had helped my uncle when I was 8, barbed wire up and behind Trichecks on that back side. And I remembered the old dam structure that was up there. I hadn't been there since I was 8, so that's 50-odd years ago. And I said to Bill, I says, if you don't mind, I'd like to just I've always wanted to walk down the back of that wetland that's now part of the Three Rivers lot in behind Stevens, and keep going back toward the headwaters of that dam.
Yeah.
And that geology is fascinating. That watershed up and beyond Richards
Yep,
is so pretty. That looks like you're coming right down the Pemigewasset. I mean, it's massive bouldery drainage, high elevation, and there was an old sawmill there. Now, the earliest road that went through the town crossed over that edge. And, you know, we got a lot, you know, what was it, the red cardinal flowers that were in there?
Cardinal flowers, big
It was
standard
beautiful.
cardinal
It was worth the walk. It was- You know, there are places in Acton that you don't see. You just don't see.
Yeah.
You know, the Black Pond, you don't see. It's beautiful. Vernon Walker knew what it was like. You know, he used to sing praises of that place.
And of
You know?
course, Wesley was right. We found the mill.
I had been there for years. You could
It's still
feel
there,
it.
huh?
You can still feel it, you know, you could, you know, and the same way as Cowlsboro. Now, your mother would know that.
Yeah,
You know?
she would know that.
Nobody else would, but if you say Cowlsboro, you know, she'd know what I was talking about. Or Willie's Corner, you know, that's up in behind the Gilman Cemetery going
Yeah.
back towards Salvarinos or whatever
Yeah.
they are. That used to be Willie's Corner. And that's what, you know, because Acton has changed, and yet it stays the same to a large degree. And,
Well, the brook, I walk the brook
yeah,
from the beaver pond behind the house. I walk the brook all the way down to Richard Neal's house,
yeah.
where he lives.
Yeah, right.
Never went into the swamp. My mother
No,
didn't
no.
want me to go into the swamp. But out behind the house across the road from you, that was where my great aunt Ruth lived with her husband Ray Goodwin. And there were holes out there. My mother would talk about them. There's, out on the backside of her property, there were places out there where if you went in, you wouldn't come back out and they'd never find you. And I thought, that's a good thing to know if you were a devious character. And my aunt used to go out there walking all the time. I don't know. She used to walk out there all the time, all by herself.
There's a lot of
Right on.
there's a lot of interesting bedrock in Acton. You know, some of the Acton stock is very pretty. You know, it pops up here and there. There's, you know, even going, you don't see it unless you know, like you would. You go down 109, you look before you get to the trading post. That bedrock is quite interesting to look at. It's got a lot to tell us.
What's the deal with the strip timbering that they did going in there by 11th Street on 109? What's the deal with that?
Well, they shouldn't have cut it as hard as they
But
should, obviously.
why were they allowed to?
I have no
guess
idea.
we have a town forester.
I haven't looked at what the setbacks on that are. Yeah.
I know that this committee wasn't
No,
informed about that
no.
whole process. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on there.
Where is this?
It's right there on
On
109.
Malsum going, you know,
The gravel pit going,
Right on Mounsum Lake.
Yeah,
next to the fairgrounds.
Yeah.
Down
one lot up, yeah.
okay.
Just,
Not 12th Street, but 11th Street.
yeah,
Right.
Right across from East Shore Drive coming up.
yeah.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
not talking about some of the earliest roads in Acton, are you?
No, we're not. Not
You
in
know
this
what the
case.
earliest roads in Acton were? They were the roads that they dragged the mast pine down.
Yes, they were, and one of them was one your father would refer to as the old tote road that
Yeah.
runs parallel to Fox's Ridge. That was an old mass road,
Yeah,
and people
Yeah.
don't realize it.
Yeah.
And I've seen that referenced in many deeds.
they cut those, they cut the trees in the wintertime.
That, and if you looked at the
The
old,
tree stumps in the spring were taller than
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
man,
The minute-
because the snow was so deep.
the minister of the first church in Dover made a map, and he had to go into Maine. It was a New Hampshire map, it was a map of New Hampshire's province. But he had to pick up those masts were so important, the roads that you're talking about, that they had to cross over.
Yeah.
So he had to show those roads as they continued into Maine. And as does the Center Lebanon Road, that was a mast road.
Yeah,
It was a late
109
mast.
Route 109 was.
Route 109 was a mass road, Route 5 was picked up, was an Indian trail, but it was a mass road.
Yeah.
It was Massabesic Mass Camp, was
Yeah.
the original name of it. Then it became Washington Plantation, and then eventually Waterboro. But you know, those old names are interesting. you know.
Yeah.
People don't tie them together.
it's pretty, you know, it's pretty neat when the falls over on the Salmon Falls River, over on the Hopper Road, just as you cross into New Hampshire, was featured in Country Magazine.
And which magazine?
Country.
Yeah.
Country Magazine by Ryman Publications.
Well, it was prettier before they put the
Yeah,
the
well,
turbine
this
in
was
there.
several years back. It was back probably in the
It was pretty.
80s, maybe.
It's funny, the New Hampshire Society for Protection of Forests used to like to call that the compromise dam, you know, and then they called it one above the compromise dam. But, you know, there was an awful lot of dams on the Salmon Falls from Great East down, you know, something like 31 of them, you know.
Well, if you look, this Milton Mills has 3 right there.
Oh, yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, it's a lot of head, something like 262 feet of head in the town of Milton, you know, from one end to the other.
Yeah.
That's a lot of driving.
Have they let the waters down? Have they
I don't know if
lowered
they...
the dams?
I don't know if they have or not, yeah. but-
They have, Level Lake has been, because I drove by that the other day. That's
Well,
why I was wondering if they had it around town.
I got a question.
Okay.
Does anybody know anything about cemetery down on the corner of the Peck Road and the Milton Mills Road? Next to the old Frog Pond School.
Well, we've been there, but that's about all I know about it.
It was cleaned up a couple of weeks ago.
Oh,
by the family that owns the property.
Yeah, Robin and them, we've
Yeah.
been there. I haven't done any research on that. I think there's only one headstone in
I
there.
couldn't find any, you know, gravestones. That there was half of one that had the first name on it, you know, Mary White Bob, that it was broken. They couldn't find the other half.
Yeah.
I don't think they know, you know.
There's a very good possibility that those people might have been moved into Milton Mills, but I don't know. And, the mattresses.
we had talking one in the corner?
Yeah, the one that's, where the mattress place used to be.
Oh, that was John Rowe,
Okay,
and his wife was Mary.
John Rowe.
Yeah, that was John Rowe. And, yeah, I know that because between Lot 6s and Lot 7s across all the ranges in town, in the days of the militia, the people to the north was under one commander, and the people in the south was under Aaron Hubbard. We just mentioned the boy.
Yeah,
And the corner of the Gilman lot and Rose lot in 1779 had to be fought off in court to determine where that corner was. And almost, there's so much of the map of Acton that spins around a definition of where that corner is.
okay.
So that corner, yeah, and again, the road that comes off the Center Lebanon Road crosses Edgecombe Mountain and behind Sewell's, swings up to Miller's Corner, crosses the pondage that we just talked about, swung up past Rose Corner, and picked up part of the Hopper Road and came up to Acton Corner. Swung, made a big curve. And that road was said by the Massachusetts legislature in 1767. So that's the original road through the town. That's the oldest road in the town, other than your mass roads, which probably go back to the 1730s, but were never incorporated as a road. They never became a
A
road.
lot of the roads that are around now
Yeah,
were built on,
on mass
at
roads.
least in the
yeah,
mass roads.
Yeah,
like
as I said,
Route 109 and
yeah,
111 going out from Alfred.
So there's your answer, John Rowe and his wife.
yeah,
Mary. Do you know if they're still buried there or if they were moved? Do you have any idea?
well, there's a daughter that's a road that's in the corner of the Peck Road and your driveway, right there in the, over the bank, there's a cemetery right there too, right in the corner.
Yeah,
And that's a row also.
that's a Rowe cemetery too?
But, and then the rows married into the Merrills, which are the ones that are up and back, the ones where we found where the 5 kids were, you know, or that was off the Peck Road, he moved up there. That family was tied. The one that's in the cemetery that had the step up on it, that's in behind,
And I saw, well,
So, yeah.
Hammond's.
yeah, that's Merrill's. And he's a Revolutionary War soldier from Brentwood? I think Brentwood. Anyways, so that's that one. Show and tell, I guess it went out of my mind if I had something.
Show and tell.
Right,
I was
we-
gonna bring a book on edible and
I did bring a
poisonous
book. I did bring a
plant
book.
species, but I
This is
forgot.
about the MIBs of forestry. It's really quite good. I know his wife, I don't know him, but
I
he...
took a look at it when,
Yeah, it's quite interesting. It's got a lot of things that you wouldn't know, you wouldn't think to be, you know? But, not everything that's an old saw is true.
I can believe that.
So,
Nothing can injure them. Yeah, right.
the Three Rivers are having an open house this Friday on the 21st? I didn't know if you caught that.
I think I get something,
Okay.
is it Friday?
Friday at the Beehive, which is...
What time do you know?
I think it's early. I think it's like 5 to 8:30.
I know, I'm sure I have something somewhere, but I...
Okay, yeah.
Hey, do not plant too deep. You know the tree at the corner of at the crook of my driveway there,
Yeah.
where you come
Yeah.
in and you turn to go down in front of the barn? You know that big maple there?
Okay.
The soil is built up around the trunk of that tree, probably
Well, some trees can
8
take it.
feet.
Some trees can take it.
Yeah, some trees can take it.
Ash can take it, but a lot of
Yeah,
things
well,
can't.
this was
Oak
a
trees
maple.
do pretty well.
This is a
Yeah.
maple, and my father said, we can fill in around it, and we can see how it does. And he said, sometimes they live, sometimes they don't. There's probably 8 feet of soil that we built up around that tree, and it lived.
yeah,
Amazing, it is amazing. It's a beautiful little maple.
I did an inventory for Vaughan Woods, you know, for what they had for trees down there. And there's 43, 44 different species in that 160 acres.
where is it?
It's Vaughan Woods Park down there in South Berwick. And it's amazing.
Next to the Hamilton House.
Next to the Hamilton House down there. It's a fascinating little old, it has been cut in 160 years, a lot of it.
I've got a lot of trees on my property that I put in.
Yep.
There's Dawn Redwood. That's,
Yep.
And that's one that...
Well, you got quite a collection there,
There's,
I know you do.
Bald cypress, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Then there's, all kinds of latches and,
Go ahead, you
they're
can
related
skip.
to tamaracks.
It's 9 o'clock.
Yeah,
yeah,
it
we gotta
is
get going.
getting late.
We gotta get going. Yeah,
Sure.
we're done.
Pretty much,
We
yeah.
get out. Other than agenda items for next week, or next month? Do you have anything you specifically want to do? You want to try to pull something together in the town forest, just for the sake of it, maybe?
Did you
I
want
can
to
look at
try
the soils
did you
map.
want to try to have a work meeting
No, I don't
with
know,
the,
it's
with the
tough.
town pound to clean it out this fall, or do you want to wait until?
Well, I guess I didn't say that, that was meant to be for, I said it someplace else, that's definitely meant to be for spring, but I think it's just a matter of going in there and seeing what you need to do, and putting a little conservation mix in.
Yeah,
Because I'm afraid, it's gonna just grow back to bushes if you don't put grass back in there a little bit.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to see it. Well, I thank you for coming.
appreciate it very much.
Yeah,
Are we going to continue to be a viable committee to the town of Acton?
Probably, I'll see why not. I made a bunch of notes, different things that they can do with the board. I'll get back to you on that. Go from there.
yeah, it's,
Okay. Do you think that there'll be a problem with us increasing our membership if we can find people interested in sitting?
Let me check with the board and see. I don't know what,
It would only be 2 more people, right? We have 5, it would only go to 7. And we're not a regulatory board.
right. It is you 4 and Lois.
Right,
We have 5 right now.
yeah.
They might get
There's
it.
only four of us here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So who's the other one, Lois?
Lois.
No.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yep.
I appreciate the history lesson.
It comes with it. It just does. It's all about a sense of place, it just is.
That's a place. 150th, Acton Fair
Yeah,
coming up. We've been trying very hard. I've been trying very hard, partly because it's a small fair. They're not faring well, especially in areas where population is increasing, like it is in York County. Agriculture gets a backseat, the fairs get a bad rep. It's not a non-profit, it's a for-profit fair, but it's the York County Agricultural Fair. We're trying very hard to get people to support it. And there's the number of people we have talked to that don't even know what the hell it is.
Acton Fair?
Yeah. They don't even know what's Acton Fair? They don't even know what it is or when it is or anything. And it just amazes me because
Well-
it's so much of an integral part. But this is what, if the fair disappears, you as a town, we have to ask ourselves, what is going to happen to that piece of property?
I give a lot of talks I've done it for state parks and whatever, natural resources or historical, doesn't matter. I did something for some school kids. I had 160 kids or more on 2 different occasions. I just put a general display, because I knew they didn't have time for a talk, but they could just sit and look. And do you know the assets Acton has? I mean, there is, one of the places where you see the natural resources of Acton beside walk going down the road. I mean, if you go out into the woods and you say, that's a jewel, that's a gem, I'm glad I saw that, and I'm not talking about silver mines, to me,
No,
that bothers me because they're so dangerous. The Acton ones aren't too bad, but the ones in Lebanon they
Yeah.
really need to fence them up. They need to do something about them, they're
and
dangerous.
That's,
You
to
know.
me, that's what, it's an invasion, but it's also an asset. And it was an asset that we could have tapped into and we didn't. We allowed, but they're still out there. If a kid gets lost in the woods, they're still out there, and who knows where they are.
Yeah.
I guess that's my thing. If a kid gets lost in that section of town in the woods, who's gonna know to go right to this
Right.
spot and check it first?
You've been working on a whole bunch of the schoolhouses. There's a whole bunch of mills. There's a whole bunch of old beaver dams. There's a bunch of good fishing holes. There's a places where there's rapids. There's historic buildings. I mean, those are all, you used the word first time tonight, conservation. This was a conservation committee, and that's part of the problem is people see that, we're taught that we're supposed to conserve something, and yet conservation was set up to be conserving of the natural resources. But just because the word has other connotations, the comprehensive plan spatted it out, made it bigger. And
I've got to bring the pictures in on that old church. There was an old church out in Illinois that I got a chance to tour by accident. We got a chance to tour it, me and my son. And the people who owned it, he sent his wife, they were auctioning it off. A lot of people from Chicago were buying, this is Joliet, they're buying the property, ripping down the old historical buildings for profit, okay, and putting in low housing or whatever. So they're auctioning off this old church. It's built in 1760 something, I think. It
Okay.
was old for that area. Okay, so anyways, the thing is, and I could have the dates wrong, I'm going by memory, so don't quote me. I don't have a mind like Wesley's. Anyways, the thing is that he sent his wife to go, he goes, you go to the auction, get as many people as you can and just stop them from selling the church. And he sent his son with him. He's a pharmacist. He's running a pharmacy, okay? You know, little soda pop thing, whatever. Anyways, then his son comes back and goes, so what happened? What happened? And he goes, was your mother able to save the church? And he said, yeah. He goes, oh, that is great. How many people showed up? No one. He goes, how'd she save it? She bought it. She bought the church. And he's like, she bought it? So, consequently, they ended up owning not just the church, but also this is an old Presbyterian church. It's round. It has a pipe organ in it that still works. It's 35 feet tall into the air, the pipes go.
Yeah.
It's a historic, he's made it into a historical, it's a historical landmark. He made it into a historical wedding chapel, and you can get married there. And he gave us a tour while 2 weddings were going on. Your wedding and reception, amazing. It is just amazing. Bill, I took some pictures. The stained glass windows, which there were 4 of them, because it's a round church, so it's built, it's built round, but it's like an octagonal, were taller than the walls in this town hall. And probably as wide as from this window to the window at the end. And there were 4 of them. It was amazing. The organ still works. I thought of you, Wesley. I've got to bring the pictures in and show them to you.
So election of officers, what the heck? I mean, I don't know, but at least we can.
Next week,
we
next
oughta
meeting, yes.
At least.
I will be a member. I'll come in and get sworn in.
All right. And other than that, maybe the forestry issue can be.
I will invite the young fellow. I can invite him to come to the meeting if
Sure.
nothing else. He does logging with horses.
You mentioned about the Acton Fair. Is everybody aware that this coming year, what's the 150th?
Yeah, she
Yeah.
said that, yeah.
Yeah, and that was, for a small fair to go 150 years, it'd be nice not to have it die before it can at least make it to 160.